And we're back with another Wheel of Time reaction and analysis video. Today we're looking at some still frames that were released on the Wheel of Time Twitter page of the five main characters and Moiraine and Lan. And I had been thinking I wanted to do a breakdown of each of the five Emets Fielders as separate videos because I think we're going to get short little videos on each of these characters soon, at least before the series launches. So this seemed like a good opportunity to do that. Instead of doing one video each, I think I'm going to do just one video on these still frames we got, and talk about each character, not too deeply, just some ideas about each character that I have. I'm not going to give, biographies or a list of their abilities or talk too much about what happens to them in the books. There may be some light spoilers, but I will, like I've said all along, I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to keep it fun. So I want to start with Perrin, who I love the look for. I love the look of all of these digital illustrations, I guess you'd call them, of each character. They are clearly inspired by some of the artwork we saw on the audiobooks release a while back, when they first started throwing money at promoting the Wheel of Time. Because for a long time in the Wheel of Time, the only artwork we had was the cover art, which I love, but is definitely dated by today's standards. The big book of bad art, the Wheel of Time Compendium, or whatever the title is, and then fan art and the Red Eagle comics, which I have mixed feelings about. The audiobooks were when we've got modern professional illustrations showing us the world of the Wheel of Time, and that they are clearly were referenced when these images were created. So the thing I want to talk about Perrin is, the reason I want to talk about Perrin first is because Perrin is the perfect introduction for a new reader and a new fan of the Wheel of Time to what is going to happen to these five characters down the road in this epic. Perrin is really the first on the hero's journey to step across the threshold and sort of be forced into his new identity as a hero. Perrin can talk to wolves, and he learns that early on in the first book, and has to make some hard choices, and has to step up and be the man that he's going to grow into to become Perrin Goldeneyes. And so when I meet new people who want to read these books and are maybe having trouble with the series and well, why would I read this? It's not any different than a million other Lord of the Rings clones that were written in the later half of the last century. I tell them to keep a close eye on Perrin's arc in the first book, because Perrin is an indication of what all the rest of the characters are going to have to go through. He goes through it first, which is interesting because he's probably the most reluctant of all the Emmet Fielders to leave. Perrin just wants to be a blacksmith, but he's forced very early in these series to be a hero and a fighter. And a little bit more about my Lord of the Rings comment. This series, obviously, especially in the first novel, follows Tolkien's storytelling cycle, like a lot of the books. Tolkien invented the modern epic fantasy, and a lot of the books that were written in the later half of the 20th century in this genre follow that cycle, and it's a good cycle. I mean, without Tolkien, we don't have Star Wars, we don't have Harry Potter, We don't have a lot of great books. We don't have The Wheel of Time. But The Wheel of Time definitely takes a hard left turn into its own world very soon into these series. And if you do the work, if you sit down and slog through Eye of the World and stick with the series, the payoffs are amazing. And I would never rob anybody who loves reading and loves fantasy of those payoffs. As my opinion, some of the payoffs in The Wheel of Time are the best in epic fantasy. So that's Perrin, and I think this actor has really captured his look. I think the artwork has really captured the feel of this world that Tolkien has built and that they are revealing on television. So that's it for Perrin. The next character I want to look at, I think, is Egwene. Let me pull up that picture. Beautiful, beautiful picture. So where Perrin is the reluctant one to leave Emond's Field, Egwene is the most eager. She's the most earnest. She wants to learn to channel. She wants to go to the White Tower, become an Aes Sedai. It's a grand adventure for her. Similar to she's very similar to the character of Moraine in the Book of New Spring, where it's all exciting and she can't wait to get out there into the world and get into this adventure. Just looking at this image, I think perhaps that bracelet was a gift from Rand. I'd have to. It's certainly prominent. I love the divided skirts for riding, the braid. Um, this actress is just gorgeous. I've already got a big crush on her. Egwene has an amazing arc throughout the series. I was thinking about it last night, and I don't want to spoil anything because I think there's some real huge spoilers around Egwene. But she goes all over the place and does so much and sees so much. And it's just amazing the highs of the character, the lows of the character. In many ways, she is just as main of a character as Rand. The first Sanderson book, The Gathering Storm, I think, if I remember correctly, has a bunch of Egwene's sort of climax. The climax of her arc is in The Gathering Storm. I believe it's in The Gathering Storm. And it's one of my favorite books. I am with Egwene every step of the way, and I actually don't really like a lot of the chapters on Aes Sedai, unless Egwene's in the room because she puts it all on its head, and she's such an interesting, fun character to be with. Talk a little bit about her abilities as a dreamer. There's a world of dreams that I'm not going to try to pronounce. Tel'arinarod, I guess I'm going to try to pronounce it. And Egwene and Perrin both have abilities that allow them to fight the Forsaken in the World of Dreams. It's also the World of Dreams is used by the Forsaken to spy on the others Forsaken and to spy on the heroes. There's a lot happens in the World of Dreams, and Egwene sort of is the window into that world for not only the readers but the other characters. Egwene teaches Nineveh and Elaine about the World of Dreams, and Rand has his own, or not Rand, Perrin has his own sort of business in the World of Dreams and his own abilities there. So don't want to spend too much time on Egwene, but love what I'm seeing so far. The next character I want to talk about is Rand. There he is. So again, right out of the cover art, um, that red is the trademark Rand red. They're leaning heavily on the archer, which I think is how they're going to explain the flame and the void, which I won't explain here, but it's sort of a philosophy that Tam teaches to Rand, and Rand uses it to sort of master his gifts as the series goes on. I don't want to talk too much about Rand, not for spoiler reasons, but because I think there's going to be enough content on YouTube and other places about Rand for you to consume. And frankly, because of the movie and because I just read the book, Dune is very much at the front of my mind right now. And I really feel like I could not talk about Rand without talking about Paul Atreides, and I don't want to do that. So the look is great. I'm getting strong, like Hayden Christian, Anakin Skywalker vibes, like good Anakin Skywalker vibes, not like whiny Anakin Skywalker vibes from this character. I've seen him deliver some of his lines. He looks like he's going to be a good Rand, but I'm not going to talk too much more about him. If you want a Rand video, I'm sure there's plenty of great ones on YouTube. Next is Matt. Again, right out of the audiobook, and maybe I'll post some of the audiobook cover so you can see what I'm talking about. Looks like he's holding a knife in his hand. That could be the ruby dagger. Matt is everyone's favorite character. He's on the top of everyone's. When everyone lists their favorite characters, Matt's always up at the top somewhere. He's cool and he's funny and he's the charming rogue and he's always in trouble, but he's got the heart of gold. He's your Han Solo character. But we don't meet that Matt until really book 3. And he doesn't get his hat, his cool Indiana Jones hat, until book 4. The Matt in the first book is kind of a sulky, whiner. He's always looking. He wants to go out into the wide world and get rich. And he's got some. He locks horns with Rand in the first and second book. It's not that he has some moments. He has a big moment at the end of the second book. But the character that everybody thinks about when they think of Matt doesn't really get introduced. He's probably the last. The way Perrin is the first character to sort of come into his own as a hero, Matt is the last one. And he becomes a hero, like they all do. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle Matt. I can see sort of in this still some hints, like even with the mountain in the back sort of seems to suggest his hat a little bit, and the way his cloak, the Prince of Ravens cloak that he will someday wear, and of course the dagger is, that's spooky. I get chills just thinking about that, and I haven't talked too much about Shadar Logoth or the Ruby Dagger or Padan Fain. We haven't seen much about Padan Fain, who's one of my favorite characters, certainly my favorite villain. So a lot going on with this particular image of Matt, and it'll be interesting to see how much foreshadowing we get of, the trickster and the gambler who doesn't show up until really the third book. And lastly, I wanted to talk about Nineveh. So I don't post on Reddit in Wheel of Time discussions or Dragonmount. I have years in the past, but not in a long time. So I'm not really up on anyone else's theories or analysis or commentary about the Wheel of Time books. I can only offer my own take on what I've read. So I probably get a lot of things wrong in these videos. I know that I was talking a lot about Moiraine's raising ceremony in the first video, and it's not actually Moiraine's raising ceremony that happens during the Blood Snow. She's raised prior to the Blood Snow, and then she and Siuan are tending to the Amaryllin's seat when Gitara Moroso gives her prophecy. So I that's the first of many, many mistakes I'm going to make in these series, and you can maybe it'll be worth it. Oh, let's go see what Crow has to say about Wheel of Time and see how wrong he is this week, and it'll become kind of like a meme or something. So that's a roundabout way of saying that one of the things I am familiar with from my time on Dragonmount is that there is criticism of how Robert Jordan writes women. And I'm not a writer or a critic, so I'm not equipped to critique Robert Jordan's work. So I won't even try. But if I had to guess what they're talking about, I would say that if you take somebody who's just read The Wheel of Time or The Eye of the World and ask them to describe Nineveh in a word, they'll probably say angry. Or if they're looking to empower her, they'll say she's tough, she's assertive, right? But she's a very angry person. There's no denying that. And if Robert Jordan has a problem writing women, then so does Hollywood in 2021. And you know what I'm talking about with all of the Mary Sue strong female leads we are getting in science fiction fantasy films. It's tough to get a character that has any flaws and shows any growth. She starts the movie as a badass, she ends the movie as the badass. And that's boring, right? You want your characters to go from one place to another. You want them to grow. You want to grow with them. That way you can cheer them on when they overcome their own internal obstacles. Now, with Nineveh, she has to do that. She has learned to control her emotions without giving too much away. She does end up with a block that prevents her from channeling, and so she can only channel when she's angry. You think, oh, what's my secret? I'm always angry. But by the end of the books, in the role that she plays in the last battle, Nineveh has come a long way, because certainly what she does in the Borderlands in the climax of the series speaks to a woman who has overcome a lot and is in control of herself to where she's able to accomplish something amazing. And I think there's an opportunity here, because I know we're going to get a very strong, in your face Nineveh just based on the short clips I've seen of this actress playing the character. That maybe this is an opportunity for some of these writers in Hollywood to actually look at what does it mean when we put one of these strong women in an important role in an adventure series like this. Is there a way we can investigate, some of the things that have gone wrong with how women are portrayed in media in modern era? I've mentioned Firefly before, but I think if you look at that show, the character of Zoe, for example, I think Zoe was the first mate on the Firefly. She's a badass. She kicks ass, and her husband, Alan Tudyk's character, is you know not a traditional sort of male role. He's not a tough guy. He's smart. He's funny. He's a capable pilot. He has his own gifts, but they aren't 80s action hero gifts. And Zoe is not. She is her own character. And a well written character and a layered character who's still strong but also vulnerable. It's a shame that show was cut short, because I would have liked to have seen what they did with that character instead of just killing her off in the fucking movie. So I hope that they write this character as someone who is not empowered because she's so tough, but is empowered because she has to overcome how tough she's expected to be. As I said in another video, Nineveh is, the co-leader of Emets Field at a very young age. I think she's 25 or so. I think the kids are 20, 21, 22, and I think Nineveh is in her late 20s. But because women in the Wheel of Time can channel the one power, and it's taboo for men to channel the one power, even places like Emets Field, where the one power is kind of a myth and a mystery, the fact that the Aes Sedai hold such political power, comparable to like how much political power the Catholic Church held in medieval Europe, that has trickled down to places like Emets Field, where yes, they are dealing with the fact that women are on equal footing or even more powerful than the men in this world. And what does that mean for a young girl who's expected to step up and take care of her people and be a leader at a young age? So if they handle it right, I think they have an opportunity to do something awesome here. And if they handle it wrong, it just is going to be another sort of forgettable Mary Sue lead. But I'm not going to be negative on this series until it gives me a reason to be negative, and then I'll just stop making videos if I don't like it. And we got some pictures of Lan and Moraine, but I'll talk about them. I've already talked about them in some of the videos. I don't think I'm going to talk about them here. I think I'm going to stop it here. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. And as soon as we get some more media, we'll be back with another video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.